Hello, everybody. Regan Durfus here from the University of Arizona Cooperative Extension with the Arizona Health Zone, AZ Health Zone SNAP Ed program. I am here to chat with you today about some farmers market guidance and some recommendations for returning to the farmers market as a patron or if you organize a farmers market or a vendor at a farmers market. Just a few recommendations. We are seeing that farmers markets and little community neighborhood markets are beginning to reopen now that the governor has lifted some of the social isolation and social distancing guidelines. And we recognize that farmers markets serve an essential and vital role in our communities. And so we want to make sure that farmers markets are still able to provide fresh fruits and vegetables, but that precautions are taken so that that's done safely. So again, today we're going to talk about how both market managers, coordinators, producers, and vendors and participants, the community members who are going to the farmers market, the things that you can do to be a little bit safer and make sure that you're helping keep the community safe during the COVID-19 outbreak. So just really briefly, health experts believe that COVID-19 is primarily spread when someone breathes the air of an infected person. And the air can stay contaminated for up to 3 hours after the infected person has left the area. Current research indicates that the virus can also survive on cardboard for 24 hours and other hard surfaces for several days. So if the virus is moved from a hard surface to a vulnerable place like a person's eyes or a mouth, that's, when it could result in illness. It is really important to note that the virus is not known to be foodborne, so it's really unlikely to cause illness if you eat something that, somebody had touched. But we still want to just be careful. And it may take for up to 14 days for someone to even show symptoms or actually come down with the sickness. And another thing to note that you could never feel sick ever. You could be asymptomatic, but still be spreading COVID-19. And so for this reason, we recommend that we just act like you have the virus and be aware that you or anyone could potentially spread the virus. Something I want to say about this video and about these recommendations is that COVID-19 recommendations seem to be changing often, with the new research that comes out, new science that comes out, new recommendations from different governing bodies. Many of these recommendations might change if you're watching this a few days later. So we just wanted to make that aware and make sure that you are just being vigilant and maybe researching the most up-to-date recommendations from your governor, from your local county health department, from your farmers market manager, etc. Whoever it is that is going to have the most up-to-date recommendations. So we know that coronavirus is spread through respiratory transmission, can survive on hard surfaces and in the air for a little while. And COVID-19 can be spread even if an infected person is not showing any symptoms. So ideally, the farmers market planning would include a bunch of precautions and safety things that we're going to talk about today, just to keep the community safe. I will say that the Bisbee Farmers Market in Bisbee, Arizona, they had a wonderful article written about them from the local newspaper, and they seem to be practicing a lot of these precautions, which is really great. And so we'd really just love to see more markets practicing some of these guidances as they begin to reopen. So one of the very first things, and we're just kind of going to run through several recommendations and guidelines here. For the farmers markets, it's important for the market manager to communicate to employees and to vendors and to volunteers that they should not be coming to the farmers market if they're displaying any symptoms of COVID-19 or illness, or maybe they've been around somebody that has been sick. That should happen via email, phone call, etc. But it should be very clearly stated that those people should not be attending the farmers market. And the same with patrons, really letting the community know, and that's kind of what we're doing here today, letting the community know if you're sick or you've been around someone that's sick, please stay home. Please do not come to the market. But back to the actual farmers market, vendors and employees. It's recommended that all employees should wash their hands with soap and water or hand sanitize after every transaction, every single one. As well as coming and going. So when you first get to the market, make sure you're washing your hands or sanitizing. And then when you leave the market, make sure you're washing your hands or sanitizing. It's recommended as of right now that people wear masks while they're in public, especially vendors who are handling food are going to be in closer contact with any of the community. So for now, the CDC recommends that, and so we are going to say wear masks as long as it's recommended. If you or your employees or your vendors are planning on wearing gloves, it is so important to be trained on proper glove use. And just like all of our Facebook Lives, we'll be linking some resources in the comments after we're finished, and we have a really good visual here on when to change gloves. What's going to be really important at the farmer's market is if you're wearing gloves to change those gloves after you touch anything that could be contaminated, anything can contaminate your hands, if you're handling different types of foods, if your gloves are ripped or torn, and especially after coughing or sneezing or touching your face, we're going to want to change those gloves. It does nobody any good if you are wearing gloves and touching a bunch of different things, touching your face, handling different cash, handling money. That kind of ruins the point of wearing the gloves. And at that point, it's just recommended to hand wash and sanitize in between all those transactions if you're not able to continuously change your gloves. More best practices, it's recommended that you vendors use non-porous plastic tables that can be very easily disinfected and really increase the frequency of cleaning those tables and other frequently touched surfaces. The CDC is advising that we use EPA recommended disinfectants, and we will link the list of those in the comments when we're finished. But a bleach solution can also be used, and the recommended bleach solution is 1/3 cup of bleach mixed with 1 gallon of water. That's the ratio that you should be using for that. Handling money, so working with the community. Ideally, you would be using like credit cards and really trying to be limiting those cash exchanges. But if you do have to use cash, or you are exchanging credit cards, or like the double up coins or something, have a system where there's like a basket where somebody could put something in the basket and then you can pick it up, so that you don't have this hand-to-hand exchange. Reduce or eliminate shoppers from handling merchandise. So what that could mean is maybe you have stuff that's pre-boxed. Maybe you have, your table up front and then a table behind, and you are placing the goods back behind, and the community could say, oh, I would like that second basket of apples right over there, and you can then transport to the next table so that they're not kind of picking through, they're not leaning over, breathing on things. You're just kind of eliminating the exposure. And then provide a printed laminated menu if you're serving food that can be sanitized after each use, or consider posting it up so that people can just visually look at it and there's no touching. Provide hand sanitizer for shoppers at each table. And again, just really communicate to the customers that they should not come to the farmer's market if they're displaying symptoms of illness or have been in contact with someone who's been sick. And realistically, if they're displaying symptoms at the farmer's market, they should be asked to leave for the safety of the community. Sorry. Okay, so setting up the farmer's market. So this is really more for market managers. Ideally, you would limit entrances, so you're kind of controlling the amount of people that are coming in and going, so that there's not these, big groups of people, especially in markets that are relatively small and you only have a small space. So maybe there's a funnel in and a funnel out, and somebody's kind of checking. If you've been to any of the, major department stores, or what are they called, like hardware stores, you'll notice that that's a practice that they are using. 100 people go in and that's it. You have to wait for a couple people to come out before you can let another person in. And at those entrances and exits, there would be a hand washing station or hand sanitizer for people to use as they're coming and going. If space allows, place booths at least 6 to 10 feet apart. The wider apart they can be, the better. The wider is better because you also want to allow space for the people who are purchasing things to wait in 6 feet apart increments. So not only are the booths 6 feet apart, but then outside the booth, there's people who can be waiting 6 feet apart from each other. Creating directional lanes in the center aisle. So kind of just being mindful of how we're setting up the market so that people can kind of go and not have to be crossing paths. Display social distancing signs. We're going to post a couple of examples of social distancing signs in the comments. And we're happy to send those to you in PDF form so that you can print them, laminate them, post them everywhere. It's just reminders about keeping 6 feet between people and not coming to the market if you're sick. We also will be linking, and we recommend that you display home produce cleaning. So really helping people understand how to wash their produce when they get home to just eliminate anything that could be on their foods. In terms of activities at the farmer's market, things are going to look a little bit differently for a little while. And, one of the most beautiful things about farmers markets oftentimes is the interaction and the demonstrations and the sampling, maybe the entertainment, the music, food demo presentations, all these really fun things. But we recommend that those are limited for now. And it's really just get in, purchase essential items, get out for now. So yeah. Facilities, again, just remembering to frequently clean and sanitize those high contact areas. Ideally, there would be hand washing stations or hand sanitizer stations around. And then maybe designate, if possible, a vendor only restroom that has a hand washing sink, soap, and disposable paper towels. But we know that that's not maybe possible for everybody. So just some general recommendations. And again, I will post all of these links in the comments after we're done. So that's really more for market managers and vendors. Another reminder for vendors about cleaning your table and surfaces frequently. You want to use a bleach solution to disinfect these hard, non-porous surfaces that are not in contact with food. So, all those non-contact with food, you're going to be using that bleach solution of 1/3 cup of bleach to 1 gallon of water. You're going to ensure a contact time of at least 1 minute, allow proper ventilation during and after application, and you really want to make sure you're never mixing bleach with ammonia or any other cleansers. You're just going to use that 1/3 cup of bleach with a gallon of cool water. We will link that in the comments, and we do have that available as a PDF as a reminder for vendors as well. Cleaning produce. So vendors, the sign that we could provide for you says, our vendors follow strict food safety guidelines to keep you safe. Please clean your produce when you get home for added safety. And this is just recommendations, options for cleaning. So you can use a produce wash, you can rinse with cool water and scrub with a produce brush. But another way to clean your produce would be to soak the produce for 5 minutes in 1/2 cup of white vinegar mixed with 2 cups of water. And then you're just going to want to rinse really well after soaking. It might slightly affect texture and taste, but not terribly. No one's ever reported to us that it's made a really gross, nasty difference. And then really just thinking about market manner. So if you are somebody who's going to be going to the farmer's market or any kind of neighborhood market or something like that, we just ask that you keep it clean and keep it quick. So basic market manners. Stay home if you're sick or have been around a sick person. Stay at least 6 feet away from other guests. Only touch items that you either have purchased or will purchase. Gone are the days of sorting through to find like the perfect mango or something like that. We really want to make sure that we're only touching things that we're taking back with us just to keep the community safe. Cover your coughs and sneezes. If it's still recommended by the CDC, wear a mask. Wash and sanitize your hands before entering and then immediately after leaving the market. And if possible, avoid using cash. We have seen vendors that have that little square thing, which is really nice because you can swipe it in yourself, take it away. There's no transaction happening between anybody. You're in charge of what you're in charge of, and they're in charge of what they're in charge of. So if possible, avoid using cash. So just to sum up a few key recommendations, if it's possible, offer call ahead pickup. And so this is going to be really vendor specific and probably isn't going to be a viable option for many vendors. But if it is possible, if you have somebody that can call ahead and you have a system to make that work, that'd be great because you can, kind of run it out, or people can come pick up their package. Maybe they've already paid. They're limiting their time at the market. We recommend that you're pre-packaging items to limit handling. So maybe you have a couple of $5 bags of greens. That's it. Just $5 bags, $5 increments. We're not exchanging cash. We're not weighing anything. We're not having random amounts of things. It's just $5 and that's it. Really communicate with vendors and the public about changes in the guidelines. So if you're a market manager and you know that this new thing is going to happen, or there's a new recommendation, or masks are no longer expected, or the city says you have to have hand washing stations, or whatever it might be, just really making sure that the public knows so that everyone, as many people as possible, are on the same page. Allow ample room between stands and limit the number of customers allowed into the market. If you are a vendor, we recommend that you have one person handle the food or item that you're selling, and then another person handles the money for the entirety of the day. So there's not all this cross-contamination. There's this person for this role, this person for that role. We already talked a little bit about how the typical fun activities of the farmers market are now going to be limited, or we recommend that they're limited. But that also applies to eating and mingling areas. Ideally you want to get in, get out. We're not hanging around having lunch at the farmers market right now, unfortunately. Recommend that vendors wear masks and wash their hands frequently and have clear signs all over the market explaining these policies and these guidelines. Again, all of these things are just recommendations from credible resources, which we will link in the comments. And it's just about keeping the community safe and trying to help stop the spread of disease while still getting and selling the fresh produce that is so important and is so important for our community economics, as well as our health and well-being. So they're just guidelines, but if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to, call your market manager. You can send us a message. You can call your local health department, call the state health department hotline, which again, we're going to link all of this in the comments. And just do your best to practice safe marketing, whether you're selling or purchasing or managing the market. That's all we have today. So we hope that you are able to stay safe and enjoy the farmers market to the best that you can. And thank you for joining us today.